In just a few moments, I am going to be talking about technology. Well, actually, technocracy. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned because you'll be glad you did. Let's go. This is Stephanie, and this is Truth Detective. Did you know that I am your very own personal truth detective? I am. On all my episodes, I give you the facts, find the evidence, dig deep into my research resources, and make sure the truth is known. Society, culture, events, corruption, controversial or conspiratorial findings. Yep, finding out about the facts about these things is my passion, and I just know they are yours too. If you are a new listener here at Truth Detective, I love that, and I welcome you, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I hope that you enjoy it and get a lot of information out of it. Did you know that technocracy has been around for a very long time, except it hasn't always been known as the word technocracy until recently, and that's what we're talking about today. You know, we must always remember who we are, where we ultimately came from, and what gives us joy and meaning. Do we have clarity, a meaning, and a mind of our own? Of course we do. Without these things, life wouldn't be life at all. It would be existence. Ask yourself, what would we do? Where would we go? What is our meaning for our lives? While researching technocracy for this episode here, I have discovered that there is so much about technocracy and technocrats, much more than can fit into one episode. So there may be another episode and another episode and another episode just to get all the information about technocracy and technocrats so that you understand what it's all about. I want the same for you. So now consider this a Technocracy 101 on just the basics. Now here comes the disclaimer. If you agree and understand with all the tenets that technocracy and technocrats believe about technocracy and see the good and positive side of technocracy, that's great. I encourage you to listen to this episode anyway and let me know how you feel about technocracy and where it's going. Remember, we are a free country and you are encouraged to think and voice your opinion. Always. My email address is truthdetectivepodcast@gmail.com. I sure would love to hear your opinion about technocracy. So now I ask you, have you ever thought about a different way of life? How your day could be vastly different than it is now? Technocrats have. How could you be vastly different than you are now? Technocracy is the answer to the future if you were to ask a technocrat, for they know what the world needs, and it needs what they have. Technocrats are the future for a civilized world. The position came into existence during the Great Depression when highly skilled professionals such as scientists and engineers that I will be talking about later on were believed to be better placed to address economic problems in the country than politicians who are elected to office based on their popularity and not on their proven performance. In most governments worldwide, technocrats are selected to head key departments that require specialized skills and experts. For example, city infrastructure and planning rely heavily on the expertise of several professionals, such as engineers, architects, to plan the design, layout, and construction of the key city hubs. In other words, these were technocrats, the uber elites that had skills in technology, science, and engineering that would enhance our economic growth here in the United States. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, I found this definition for technocracy: government by technicians, and specifically management of society by technical experts. And here's this, a split of the word technocracy that will make sense to us all. there are two separate parts of the word. Techno, meaning skill, and ocracy, meaning rule or government. So if you take this separation of techno and ocracy, you can see that it is the use of skills that will rule or govern the world. It says nothing regarding politics or politicians, because that is not in the technocrats' plans. And now here we have the warning about technocracy by then President Dwight D. Eisenhower in his farewell speech. This farewell speech was made January 17th, 1961. Listen here.
Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. It is the task of statesmanship to mold, to balance, and to integrate these and other forces, new and old, within the principles of our democratic system, ever aiming toward the supreme goals of our free society.
You see, just as I said, technocracy is nothing new. It became a thought in the late 1920s and 1930s and has been ramping up at a rapid rate since the mid-1970s. On the IBM.com website, an article entitled The IBM Punched Card, it says here in the article that in 1928, IBM introduced a new version of the punched card with rectangular holes and 80 columns. Beyond accounting purposes, the card had other uses in IBM. Until the early 1990s. The IBM card will forever be tied to the modern age of information, serving as the most commonly used method of data storage for nearly half a century. The punch card was an essential part of IBM's development and undoubtedly helped shape the company as we know it today. This was the early stages of technocracy. The technocracy that we face today is run by, of course, technocrats, those that are thought to be ultra experts in technology, science, and engineering. They are the innovators that the common middle class will never become. They are the technological experts and bureaucrats that we see and sometimes don't see today that know more than we do and perhaps seem to look down on the common people. We will follow their lead because they know best what is best for us, or so they believe, and more importantly, want us to believe. But here's the thing we must never forget. Technocracy has no room for politicians or politics. That's right. The old political system that we all know so well is to be moved aside and taken completely away from our lives. It's a behind-the-scenes agenda full of algorithms, advanced scientific knowledge, and innovations that will help us all, or so we are told. It's more than the Alexa, the smartphones, and apps on your phones that help us do extraordinary things that we know how to do but will make our lives easier. This is well beyond Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and Jack Dorsey of Twitter or the search engines like Google. This is technocracy, but I am not only talking about the algorithms of Facebook and Twitter, the algorithms that will delete a tweet or post easily if it goes against a belief. That is easy to understand, and it does do that simple task. But I'm talking about something much deeper than that, maybe perhaps a little sinister. The chaotic year of 2020 was perfect for technocrats that believe there is no crisis that should ever go to waste. Yes, fear, confusion, and chaos is the order of the day for the technocrat. In Wikipedia, there is a definition. Technocracy is a proposed system of government in which the decision maker or makers are selected based on their expertise in a given area of responsibility, particularly regarding scientific or technical knowledge. Well, we know that. Howard Scott has been called the founder of the technocracy movement, and he started the Technical Alliance in New York near the end of 1919. Members of the Technical Alliance were mostly scientists and engineers. The Technical Alliance started an energy survey of North America, which aimed to provide a scientific background from which ideas about a new social structure could be developed. A new social structure. Don't forget that. Technocracy is the science of social engineering, the scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population of this continent. For the first time in human history, it will be done as a scientific, technical, engineering problem. There will be no place for politics or politicians, finance or financiers. So let me give you an example. We could say that China's leader, Xi Jinping, is a technocrat. His background and field of study is in chemical engineering and law, two very good fields that are useful at running a country. He utilizes his knowledge to understand the strategies to run China. With a technocratic society, there are many excellent examples. China, for one, has a system of control. It looks like communism or socialism, but it's much worse. It is technocracy. Surveillance cameras and facial recognition is normal and expected from the China regime. With its social scoring system, all you have to do is get caught doing something as innocent as, let's just say, jaywalking, and the technocratic system takes hold. You are penalized by a fine taken out of your bank account, and your social score, much like a credit score, goes down, even before you get back to your apartment or home, if you're lucky enough to own a home. And sadly, this is coming to the United States too. Positions of authority based on skill and education in our society. Remember, this is a government run not by elected politicians, but by technocrats. Scientists, engineers, and innovators, and other high-minded elites skilled in technology are the future. Forget the politics that we have known. Technocrats want to run the country in a completely new and different way than we've ever seen before. Technocrats want to create a radical way of life that may benefit only themselves and a small number of elites, but not the everyday person. It's true. A technocracy and a technocrat believes in two classes, the leaders and the followers, the elites and the workers. And many of us, if not all of us, will fall into the followers class or the workers class, although it may seem tempting to be in an elite class. Those that are elites have broken the spirit, the soul, and the mind of the people. It reminds me of the movie The Hunger Games. There were the common people who were broken, unhappy, and desperate, divided into sections of the cities where they lived. And there were the upper class who lived glorious lives and didn't care about the poor people of the cities. As a matter of fact, there are so many movies that have the common theme of a technocratic government that we ought to have seen it coming. From the corporatefinanceinstitute.com, I found this. The decisions technocrats make are based on scientific data or objective methodology that is backed by science, instead of a mere opinion, like politicians have. Technocracy differs from traditional democracy, where leaders are elected to office based on their popularity. Technocrats must possess proven performance and relevant skills in their field of expertise, rather than gaining popularity based on their political affiliations. I also found this on the literaltruth.com website. Technocracy, the Great Reset, the New World Order, Agenda 21, or Agenda 2030. And by the way, they're all the same thing. It's all about an economic plan. And guess what? It is global. It involves many countries all wanting the same system. Some people truly believe that a technocratic government is waging a war against humanity. Unelected technocrats, controllers, are behind the stealthy taking over of the world. Technocracy has grown steadily as the ever-advancing technology has grown. It's no joke. The idea of a technocratic system is to create something other than a political system, and that is what they're doing, those technocrats. Well, what does that look like? Let's delve deeper into the technocrat and what technocracy really means in real-time examples. As I read some examples of true technocrats in real life, don't forget that technology has grown and become bigger than ever. There are more plans for technology in our future. And so that makes technocrats so very happy. Well, how about Elon Musk? First it was Tesla, then it was SpaceX, and now it's the Neuralink brain implant. On the American Thinker website, I found this article about Elon Musk, one of the world's biggest technocrats. It is entitled, Elon Musk's Crusade to Save You by Destroying Your Humanity. Listen here. It says, as with most transhumanist innovations, Neuralink brain implants will first be used to heal, then to enhance. How else do you justify such a grisly procedure? The chip would be flush with your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there, you'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain, and then you stitch it up. It can interface basically anywhere in your brain. Stroke victims will regain their faculties. Alzheimer's patients will recover memories. Epileptic brains will be stabilized. The lame will walk. The blind will see. And so forth and so on. It sounds perfect, right? Well, it's a world where artificial intelligence far surpasses human intellect, forcing us to upgrade our brains to stay competitive. Musk says that AI is an existential threat to human beings, though. As artificial intelligence teaches itself about the outside world, it develops its own personality. In time, it will become far more pronounced. AI, artificial intelligence, will surpass human intelligence, and we run the risk of creating alien minds that will rule over us, or perhaps destroy us altogether. Our faulty memories will be perfected by constant self-surveillance and digital retrieval. Our flawed cognition, at least in comparison to proposed AI systems, will be augmented by brain implants. Our mortality will be overcome by embedding our personalities in durable silicon brain implants. I do believe that is a very scary look at the future of technology and technocracy, and a little hard to wrap my head around. So let's go to the next one. Bill Gates and eugenics and bioethics. What is that all about? Yes, Bill Gates is another famous technocrat, and has been for many years, and now his focus is on eugenics and bioethics. And what is that? Well, I'll first give you the definition of eugenics from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations, such as by sterilization, say for example, or by trading the death of an elderly or less than desirable person for a better and much more bigger purpose, to improve the population's genetic composition. That sounds very suspicious. I found this interesting and enlightening article on the website technocracy.news. It's a great website. You might want to check it out. It will be in the show notes. This is the article I found. Bill Gates, from bioethics to eugenics. Bill Gates is not the only technocrat who believes in eugenics, but he is certainly the figurehead. Social engineering, death panels, population reduction, vaccinations, etc. all play into a world of other people deciding your fate on planet Earth. Gates has the entire medical industry panting after his loopy ideology. Lamenting the skyrocketing tuition rates for college students, Gates tells the Aspen Institute's Walter Isaacson that that's a trade-off society's making because of very, very high medical costs and a lack of willingness to say, is spending $1 million on that last 3 months of life for that patient? Would it be better not to lay off those 10 teachers and to make that trade-off in medical cost? Bill, I wonder if you're okay. Gates acknowledges that there may be some objection to this line of thinking, but that's called the death panel. And you're not really supposed to have that conversation. In fact, this death panel discussion has been around for a long time, and that discussion was spearheaded by a relatively obscure but incredibly influential branch of philosophy known as bioethics. Bioethics, for those that don't know, concerns itself with the ethical questions raised by advancing knowledge and technological sophistication in biology, medicine, and the life sciences. By scaring the public with horror stories about hospitals on the verge of collapse, the combined weight of the government, the media, and the medical establishment, the technocrats have managed to do in just a few months what Gates and his cronies have been unable to do in the past decade: introduce the verboten death panel discussions to the public. In fact, when you start documenting the history of bioethics, you discover that this is exactly what this field of study is meant to do: to frame the debate about hot-button issues so that eugenist ideals and values can be mainstreamed in society and enacted in law. From abortion to euthanasia, there isn't a debate in the medical field that wasn't preceded by some bioethicist or bioethics institute preparing the public for a massive change in values and laws. And then there's Bill Gates' passion for climate change. In the article entitled Bill Gates, the Figurehead of Modern Technocracy, found again on technocracy.news. Listen to what this says. Gates leads the technocratic takeover. Gates' focus on climate change makes perfect sense once you realize that he's part of the technocratic elite that, for decades, have been working to gobble up the world's resources in anticipation for the Great Reset, previously known as the One World Order. Over the past year, the need for the Great Reset has been announced by government leaders around the world, the call being that we need to reset the global economy and the way we live, work, travel, and socialize to make the world fairer and more sustainable, and addressing climate change under the banner of a global emergency is part and parcel of that PR campaign. If you've paid attention, you've probably seen the hints. I know I have. During the initial lockdowns in the early part of 2020, there were a slew of articles talking about how nature and wildlife were thriving in the absence of human socialization and travel. At other times, the COVID-19 pandemic has been presented as a warning to us all as to what happens when you get out of sync with nature. Well, there's no doubt about it. Technocrats want domination. At all costs, all kinds of domination, technological, scientific, engineering, domination over humankind. And it is worrisome to me and many people that it will be used for tyranny over society. It's truth. Technocrats like Bill Gates and Elon Musk are starting to build functional, smart cities designed specifically to control the population. Well, a smart city sounds so cool and snazzy and sassy, but actually a smart city is an acronym meaning specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Well, smart cities are all about formulated control. Social engineering is always leading the thought process of smart city developments. No doubt about it. However, unlike elected political representatives, the social scientists, the technocrats, and engineers are always self-appointed to run these systems. Within these smart cities, technocrats will decide what citizens should or should not do, where citizens should go or should not go, with whom citizens should or should not associate with, etc., etc. Make no mistake, these smart cities that are used under many names and guises, such as sustainability, natural resources, Agenda 2030, the Green New Deal, and doing good for the planet globally, and the mistaken guise that it's for the betterment of the world and the global economy, are not so smart when it comes to your own rights and freedoms. Patrick Wood from the website technocracy.news says that technocrats have their eyes on us all in the use of these smart cities by using surveillance, monitoring people using biometric facial scanning, geospatial tracking, financial data, and social media. And I'm sure you know and would agree. A population that is surveilled can be easily controlled. How about transportation? Force people out of private vehicles into shared public transportation, such as ride-sharing, scooters, bicycles, buses, light rails, etc. Without private transportation, individuals are locked into the city and out of the rural areas. Data. Collect real-time data from the Internet of Everything. The Internet of Everything is an expansion of the Internet of Things concept that include people as well. So here's my take. So now you and I and everybody else that's listening can see how it would be very, very easy to have a technocratic government because we are already seeing it happen right in front of us. It is happening in little bits and pieces. Remember, the more you know, the more you know. And sometimes you and I and everybody else wish we never knew what we know now, especially when it comes to the seemingly sinister rollout of technocracy. But I say question everything. It's so that you are prepared for what is to come and perhaps how to combat it. Here, let's look for these areas that will result in a problematic society and culture now and soon to come if we keep going down this hard path of technocracy. And so you know what to expect or maybe how to combat it. Suppose, just suppose, some of these things you had to worry about. Every day we are losing our freedom of speech. So freedom of speech will be, and has in a sense been, taken away. There will be no First Amendment, and we are already seeing that play out. We will lose more obvious rights that we used to take for granted. Freedom of religion, freedom to protect ourselves, freedom to protest peacefully. These are all great for everybody. There will no longer be a constitution. Technocratic governance will be the order of the day. There will be control over us from the technocrats that know what's best for us. Because we don't know. They know. Yes, it's unfortunate. There will be plenty of fear, confusion, and chaos as new plans for a technocracy society rolls out even further. But remember, a technocrat has the answer, perhaps to get rid of the disobedient individuals, the ones that want to have their human God-given rights preserved. So how do technocrats create a technocracy that you and I don't want to be a part of? Well, the first thing that they do is create confusion and chaos. Well, it's so easy. Technocrats are working right now to make this happen, and we all see them as they play out. Well, the first one is destroy institutions such as law enforcement through mandates to fund the police, the military, the anti-police rhetoric coming from BLM and Antifa. Get rid of any institution that fosters normalcy and law and order. Technocracy loves this because it breeds chaos and fear. You, me, and all of us just want the fear to go away. But technocrats know that if you are fearful enough, you will start to depend on them. Obedience is what they crave. Number 2 is to create chaos. Promote racial division. They're good at that. Chaos is easy and natural because we are visual people and we see the difference in our skin color. And we will, if we are encouraged to, start to judge individuals because of the color of their skin. A war and battle will ensue solely on race. This is racial division at its worst. Promote economic chaos. That's right. Technocrats are great at this. There's no better way to promote chaos than to take away people's economic security. Jobs, which causes individuals to depend deeply on the government. The lockdowns were a key to economic distress in Americans on a huge level. The jobs that you and I have are jobs and positions that the technocrats don't have to worry about at all. And this causes mass inflation and shortages. And lastly, how about the science and engineering of the vaccine and the rollout? Well, technocrats are involved with the vaccines as well. With so many people hesitant, the downside of technocracy has the answer. Facts and data matter and always get in the way of technocracy rolling out smoothly. And technocrats hate that a lot. An example of this is that the vaccines are not working as well as expected. This is supposed to be a technological breakthrough in science. We are told that. Yet again, confusion even about the science of the vaccine is a technocrat's dream. We blindly do what the technocrats and the bureaucrats tell us to. Frontline workers, healthcare workers, and first responders, and police are all quitting their jobs because they believe in the freedom of choice, and they feel like they are being forced to take the vaccine. It seems that the purpose isn't public health at all. Then what is the purpose? To make you ready for the so-called big government technocracy that's coming soon? Who knows? It is a sad, confusing state to be in. Sadly, regarding COVID-19, with governors' statewide mandates and rules, scientific technocracy wins every time. It's true. With COVID, elderly people testing positive were sent to nursing homes, and a staggering number of elderly individuals died in the name of bureaucrats and technocrats calling the shots. So to speak. No, technocrats see the common people, that would be you and me, as little more than lab rats, test subjects, and we are dispensable. This is what is currently happening in Israel. It has been said that the technocrats feel that if they lose a few people in the name of science and for the greater good, it's okay. And lastly, don't forget, on the technocracy.news website, which I know I use a lot, I found this article entitled, Dying Alone, Technocrats Drive Heartless, Anti-Human Outcomes. The mind of a technocrat doesn't see human life as anything sacred. So it is easy for them to let people die alone as patients, and families are left in a state of abject horror. As stated many times, technocracy is anti-human at its core. So, of course, I'm not going to leave you with a sad note. So here are my call to actions, and there are some good ones here. First, read all the articles that are mentioned in this episode. Links will be in the show notes. And then watch the Eisenhower presidential farewell speech. The warning is spooky, and that link will be there too. Understand what technocracy is by watching these movies that are on Netflix: Coded Bias, Social Dilemma, and The Hunger Games, if you haven't seen that. Read your Constitution. Know your rights, especially the First Amendment. If you don't believe in the mandates, then don't be afraid to stand up to those mandates about masking and vaccinations. Once again, these mandates are made by bureaucrats like Dr. Fauci, which are technocrats as well. Taxpayers like you and me don't pay their salaries. These technocrats are only thinking about their own interests and not the interests of the American people. You can bet on that. Go to citizensforfreespeech.org to get better informed by getting on their email list. It's very interesting. And go to technocracy.news, my favorite website, to find articles and podcast episodes that are enlightening and chock full of important information about technocracy. So now is the fun part. My word of the week. Democracy. And how is that different than technocracy? Find out all you can about these important words, and there will be an episode in the future about democracy. Hey, if you've enjoyed this episode of Truth Detective, that's great, and I love that. Go to truthdetectivepodcast.com to get to all my episodes, my show notes, those links, and there's a bio on me if you're wondering what I'm all about. Subscribe and follow Truth Detective to get the notifications of when new episodes come out, and what is better than that? Well, that's it for this episode, and I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about technocracy and technocrats, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.